Look, I never thought my life would hinge on the frequency of a Chihuahua's anal gland expressions. Seriously, that's where I found myself, though. Sitting at the kitchen table, the cold laminate pressing into my forearms, staring at the third unexplained charge from Paws and Claws Wellness Center in 6 weeks. 175. For what? Fluffy wasn't limping. She wasn't scratching excessively. She was eating her stupid, expensive organic kibble with the usual gusto of a furry vacuum cleaner. Yet, Nina kept taking her in. Just a little checkup, Dennis, she'd say, her voice smooth as the expensive conditioner she used. Doctor Evans is just so thorough. You know how I worrying about her. I did know, or thought I did. Nina loved that neurotic, trembling ball of fluff more than life itself. Also I believed. That belief started curdling about 2 months ago, right around the time Dr. Evans' name started popping up in conversation, an invited guest. Dr. Evans thought Fluffy might have a slight allergy. Dr. Evans recommended this new supplement. Dr. Evans was concerned about her weight, her teeth, her aura for all I knew. Nina's eyes would get this soft, focused look whenever she talked about him, a look I hadn't seen directed at me in longer than I cared to admit. It wasn't just the bills, though they were adding up like bad karma. It was the vibe. Nina started dressing differently for these vet appointments, not fancy, but intentional. The soft cashmere sweater instead of her usual hoodie, mascara applied with a careful hand, her good perfume, the one she used to wear on our date nights that had dwindled to maybe once a month, usually initiated by me with the enthusiasm of scheduling a root canal. You look nice, it commented one Tuesday morning, watching her zip up her knee-high boots. Big day at the vet's. She'd paused, her reflection in the hallway mirror catching my eye. A flicker of something guilt, annoyance, crossed her face before she smoothed it into a practiced smile. Oh, just trying to look presentable. Dr. Evans has a very professional practice. She leaned down to scoop up Fluffy, who yapped excitedly. Be a good girl for Daddy, Fluff. Mommy's taking you to see the nice doctor. The way she stressed nice made my stomach clench. Suspicion is a corrosive thing. It starts small, a tiny rust spot on the surface of your trust. Then it spreads, silently, eating away at the foundations until the whole structure groans under its own weight. I tried to ignore it, told myself I was being paranoid, insecure. We'd been together 7 years. We owned a house. We shared a neurotic Chihuahua, for God's sake. That had to count for something. But the little things piled up. Her phone, always face down now. The new passcode she wouldn't share, just in case I lose it. The way she'd jump like a startled cat if I walked into the room while she was texting, quickly thumbing the screen dark. And the vet appointments always during my work hours, always requiring her to be gone 4 hours. Traffic was awful, she'd sigh, dumping her bag on the counter. And Dr. Evans was running behind. Hey, so popular. Dr. Evans, Dr. Damien Evans. I'd met him once, briefly, when Fluffy had a genuine scare-ator sock. Naturally, head seemed competent, young, maybe early 30s, sandy hair, earnest blue eyes, hands that looked strong but gentle as he examined Fluffy. Polite to me, but his attention had been laser-focused on Nina, explaining the X-rays with a quiet intensity that had made her nod intently, hanging on his every word. At the time, I'd thought, good vet, communicates well. Now, the memory made acid burn the back of my throat. The breaking point wasn't dramatic. It was mundane. A Thursday, Nina had texted saying Fluffy had another follow-up and she'd be late. My gut screamed. I called Paws and Claws, tried to keep my voice casual. Hi, yeah, my wife, Nina Petrova. She's there with Fluffy for an appointment. I just wanted to confirm the time she's expected to finish. Need to coordinate dinner. The receptionist sounded bored. Petrova Fluffy, yes, she's here. Let me see Dr. Evans has her in now. Shouldn't be more than another 30 minutes. Standard wellness check. Wellness check. The third in 6 weeks. For a dog who was demonstrably well. Great. Thanks, I managed, my voice tight. I hung up. The office was quiet. My computer screen blurred. 30 minutes. Nina had left hours ago. Where was she? The question echoed in the hollow space where my trust used to be. I did something I'd never done before, something that felt slimy and necessary. I drove, not home, towards Paws and Claws. I parked down the street, tucked behind a delivery van with a clear view of the clinic's side door, the one I remembered staff using when I'd been there. Time crawled. Each tick of the dashboard clock was a hammer blow. The rational part of my brain tried to wrestle control. She ran errands. She got coffee. She's talking to the vet about Fluffy's imaginary allergies. But the corrosive suspicion had eaten through the last layers of rationalization. Then, the side door opened. Nina stepped out. Not alone, Doctor. Damien Evans stood beside her. He wasn't in his white coat, just dark jeans and a grey Henley. They weren't touching. Not obviously, but the space between them crackled with an intimacy that hit me like a physical blow. They were leaning towards each other, talking low, heads almost touching. Nina laughed, a sound I hadn't heard genuinely directed at me in months. Light, carefree, flirtatious. She touched his arm, just a fleeting brush of her fingertips against his sleeve, a gesture so small, so loaded. He smiled down at her, that earnest expression replaced by something warmer, more familiar, possessive. He said something, and she nodded, biting her lower lip in a way I knew meant she was pleased, excited. He glanced around, a quick, automatic sweep. His eyes passed over the delivery van, over my car. Did they pause? Or was it my paranoia? They didn't linger. He held the door open for her as she ducked back inside. He followed, the door clicking shut behind them, sealing them in their private world. I sat there. The engine was off, but the silence roared in my ears. My hands were clenched so tightly on the steering wheel, my knuckles were white, bloodless. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't rage that flooded me first. It was a profound, suffocating cold, a numbness that started in my chest and spread outwards, icing my veins. The images flashed, her dressing up, her secretive phone, the endless vet bills, the traffic, her bright eyes when she talked about him, the touch, the smile, the intimacy radiating off them in invisible waves. It wasn't suspicion anymore. It was knowledge, brutal, undeniable, soul-crushing knowledge. My wife, Nina, the woman he'd built a life with, shared dreams and a mortgage and a ridiculous, yapping Chihuahua with. She wasn't taking Fluffy to the vet for checkups. She was taking herself, using our dog, our shared responsibility, our pet, as a fucking alibi to fuck her veterinarian. The cold numbness began to recede, replaced by a searing heat, a molten core of betrayal that threatened to erupt. Fluffy, our dog, the innocent creature she professed to love so much, reduced to a furry prop in their sordid little drama. The vet, the man sworn to care for animals, exploiting that trust, that access, to prey on my wife, on my life. I didn't confront her that night. She came home, flushed, carrying Fluffy, who looked perfectly fine. All good, she chirped, dropping her keys in the bowl. Doctor Evans says she's in perfect health, just needs her nails trimmed more often. She avoided my eyes, bustling into the kitchen to fill Fluffy's water bowl. I watched her, really watched her, saw the slight tremor in her hands, the extra brightness in her eyes that wasn't quite happiness, more like adrenaline, the way she hummed a tune under her breath, a tune I didn't recognize. She moved differently, lighter, almost vibrating with a secret energy. My energy, the energy stolen from us. That's great, I said, my voice sounding flat, alien to my own ears. Perfect health. After 3 visits in 6 weeks, Dr. Evans must be incredibly thorough. She froze for a microsecond, her back to me, hands still on the faucet. Then she turned, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. He is very detail-oriented. It's reassuring, you know, to have someone so attentive. Attentive. The word hung in the air like poison gas. I wanted to scream, to smash something, to demand answers, but the cold, calculating part that had taken over held me back. Seeing them together, that silent, damning tableau outside the clinic, had shifted something fundamental. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a fleeting lapse. This was a calculated, ongoing deception. They had a system. They had a cover story. They had my dog. Rage was useless right now. Blind rage would just give her the opportunity to lie, to obfuscate, to twist it around on me for being paranoid or controlling. No, if this was war, and it felt like nothing less, I needed intelligence. I needed proof. Not for her. She already knew the truth. For me, to armor myself against the inevitable gaslighting, to etch the reality of her betrayal so deeply onto my soul that I could never doubt it, never soften it, never forgive it. So, I played the part, the oblivious, trusting husband. I ate the dinner she cooked. I listened to her chatter about her day, carefully omitting the 2 hours spent not at the vet's. I asked mundane questions about work, about her sister. All the while, inside, I was a raw, exposed nerve, replaying that moment by the clinic door on a loop. Her laugh, his possessive look, the touch, that night, lying beside her in the dark. The space between us felt like a chasm. She fell asleep quickly, her breathing deep and even, peaceful. I stared at the ceiling, the shadows morphing into accusing shapes. The betrayal wasn't just sexual, though the thought of them together made me physically ill. It was the utter violation of trust, the abuse of the mundane fabric of our lives. Taking Fluffy to the vet was an act of care, of responsibility. Shed weaponized it, turned it into a vehicle for deceit. Shed polluted everything: our home, our routines, even the love we supposedly shared for that stupid dog. The next day, operating on autopilot fueled by bitter coffee and fury, I started digging, not dramatically, carefully, methodically, like disarming a bomb. I accessed our shared credit card statements online, scrolled back months, flagged every charge to pause and clause, cross-referenced them with my work calendar. Sure enough, every single appointment coincided perfectly with days I was in the office, usually on long conference calls or buried in deadlines. Never on my days off, never when I might suggest coming along. I checked her phone records. We were on a shared family plan, another relic of trust. Found the clinic's number, then found another number, called frequently, always for short durations during the day, sometimes late in the evening or he'd gone to bed. A number not saved in her contacts. A quick reverse lookup online confirmed it was listed under EVANS, DVM, his personal cell, presumably. One evening, while she was showering, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. A text preview flashed on the lock screen. Unknown number. Can't stop thinking about today. Exam room 3. The preview cut off. My blood turned to ice. Exam room 3. Not a treatment room. Not the reception. Exam room. The image slammed into me. Cold stainless steel table. The smell of antiseptic. The posters about heartworm and them, using the very space dedicated to animal care, to vulnerability. It was grotesque. She emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, humming. Phone buzzed, I said, my voice miraculously steady. Probably spam. She picked it up, glanced at the screen, and a faint blush crept up her neck. Yeah, just junk, she mumbled, quickly thumbing the screen and slipping it into her pocket. The casual lie, delivered while damp from the shower shed, taken after coming home from another extended appointment, was another twist of the knife. The evidence mounted, each piece a heavier stone settling on my chest. A receipt for a fancy coffee shop near the clinic, dated and timed during one of Fluffy's supposed appointments, found crumpled in her coat pocket. A bottle of unfamiliar, expensive perfume tucked in the back of her underwear drawer, not her usual scent. A gift, obviously, from him. I started noticing other things. How Shed sometimes flinched slightly when I touched her, a reaction Shed quickly masked. How Shed become overly affectionate at odd times, like she was overcompensating. How her eyes would sometimes drift away during conversations, a faint, secretive smile playing on her lips. She was living a double life, and the strain, or perhaps the thrill, was starting to show. The hardest part was Fluffy, the poor, oblivious creature. Nina would still fuss over her, coo at her, take her for walks, but it felt performative. like Fluffy was just a necessary accessory to maintain the facade. Watching Nina cradle the dog, the same hands that had touched him, felt like a violation. That dog loved her unconditionally, and she was using that love as a shield for her betrayal. It made me sick. I knew I had to confront her. The weight of the secret, the constant surveillance, the corrosive anger, it was eating me alive. But I needed the right moment. I needed her off balance. I needed irrefutable proof laid bare. The opportunity came on a rainy Tuesday. Shed texted earlier, Fluffy scratching a lot, taking her to paws and claws after work. Doctor, Evans can squeeze us in. Might be late. The lie was so smooth, so routine. My fingers trembled as I typed back. No problem. Hope it's nothing serious. Love you. Love you. The hollow words tasted like ash. I left work early, drove back to the clinic, parked in the same spot behind the delivery van. The rain drummed a relentless rhythm on the car roof, matching the pounding in my temples. The waiting was agony. Every minute stretched into an eternity, filled with imagined scenes behind those clinic walls. Finally, the side door opened. Not just Nina and Dr. Evans this time. Nina stepped out first, pulling her coat collar up against the rain. Dr. Evans followed, holding an umbrella. He opened it, not over himself, but over her. He stepped close, his free hand coming to rest lightly on the small of her back. He guided her towards the covered walkway leading to the staff parking lot. A possessive, intimate gesture. A gesture that spoke of familiarity, of routine. They stopped under the shelter of the walkway roof, partially shielded from my view, but not enough. He leaned in. She tilted her face up. The umbrella tilted, shielding them from the clinic windows, from the street, but not from me, watching from the shadows. And they kissed. Not a quick peck. A deep, lingering kiss. Her hand came up to rest on his chest. His arm tightened around her waist, pulling her closer against him. Time stopped. The rain, the distant traffic, the world, it all faded into a muffled roar. There was only the stark, undeniable reality of my wife kissing another man, under an umbrella, in the rain, outside the clinic, where she'd supposedly been tending to our dog's itchy skin. The proof wasn't just digital trails or suspicious receipts anymore. It was visceral. It was happening right now, in the grey afternoon light, soaked in rain and betrayal. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just watched, a silent, shattered witness to the end of my marriage. The kiss ended. They lingered, foreheads touching, saying things I couldn't hear. She laughed softly, touching his face. He brushed a raindrop from her cheek. Then, reluctantly, they parted. She walked towards her car. He watched her go, that same intense, possessive look on his face, before turning back towards the clinic door. I waited until her taillights disappeared around the corner. Then I started my car. The heater blasted, but I couldn't stop shaking, not from cold, from the seismic shift that had just occurred. The life I knew was gone, obliterated by veterinary appointments and a man who cared more about examining my wife than my dog. The drive home was a blur. The rain streaked the windshield like tears. My mind raced, not with plans, but with the sheer, overwhelming reality of it. How do you walk back into the home you shared? How do you look at the person who promised to love you, knowing what you know, knowing what you saw? I parked in the driveway. Our house looked different now, not a sanctuary, but a crime scene, the scene of the ongoing crime of my betrayal. I took a deep, shuddering breath, the air scraping my raw throat. I could hear Fluffy barking inside. Nina's car was in the garage. She was home. I sat there for 5 minutes, 10, gathering the shattered pieces of myself, stoking the cold fire of rage that was the only thing holding me together. This wasn't about winning her back. That ship had sailed, sunk, and been swallowed by the abyss. This was about reclaiming my sanity, my dignity, making her look me in the eye, and acknowledge the devastation she'd wrought. Finally, I killed the engine. The silence was deafening. I opened the car door. The rain hit my face, cold and sharp. I walked up the path to the front door, my footsteps heavy on the wet concrete. Each step felt like walking towards my own execution. I turned the key, pushed the door open. The familiar scent of home lemon polish, Nina's perfume, dog washed over me, now tainted, suffocating. Fluffy came skittering down the hallway, yapping excitedly, bouncing around my legs. Nina appeared in the kitchen doorway, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She smiled, that beautiful, lying smile. "Hey, you're home early. Everything okay?" Her voice was light, concerned. The perfect performance. I closed the door behind me with a soft click that echoed in the sudden stillness. I didn't take off my coat, didn't move towards her. I just stood there, dripping rainwater onto the welcome mat, looking at her, really looking at her, seeing the woman I loved, and the stranger who had destroyed us. Fluffy's scratching cleared up fast, I said, my voice low, rough, barely recognizable. "Must be some miracle cure, doctor. Evans has." Her smile faltered. "Just a fraction. A tiny crack in the facade. Oh yeah, he gave her this new topical ointment. Seems to be helping already." She took a step forward, her eyes searching my face. "Dennis, you look pale. Are you sure you're okay?" I took a step towards her, my boots leaving wet prints on the hardwood. Fluffy whined, sensing the tension, skittering back towards the living room. The air crackled. "No, Nina," I said, my voice gaining strength, fueled by the icy fury burning inside. "I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for a long time." I held her gaze, forcing her to see the knowledge in my eyes, the devastation. "But you wouldn't know anything about that, would you? You've been too busy with the vet." The color drained from her face. The dish towel slipped from her fingers, landing silently on the floor. The practiced smile vanished, replaced by a mask of pure, unadulterated fear. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She just stared at me, her eyes wide, darting, like a trapped animal finally seeing the jaws of the snare. The silence stretched, thick and heavy. The only sound was the frantic ticking of the hallway clock and the drumming of the rain outside. The comfortable lie we'd lived in was shattered. The grotesque truth was out, hanging in the air between us, as tangible and suffocating as the smell of wet dog and betrayal. It was her move now. But the game, the sick, twisted game she'd been playing using our dog and our life as pawns, was over. The veterinary betrayal wasn't just an affair, it was a desecration. And the bill for that desecration, emotional and otherwise, was finally coming due. The confrontation had only just begun. The wreckage of our life lay scattered around us, and the hardest part, navigating the ruins, was still ahead. The cold fury that had sustained me now settled into a hard, unyielding resolve. This was the end, and it started with her looking into the eyes of the man whose trust she had fed to the wolves, disguised as care for a Chihuahua.